Right, with all eyes once again on the US and of course on the ECB, let's show you what's happening in the currency markets. The dollar is just a little bit weaker against the yen, 105.26, but the key thing I think here is that the euro-dollar cross rate, there we are below 140, it was seen as a big level, currently at 139.12 and heading lower. Sterling's also back down to a 176 handle and dollars moving higher against the Swiss franc at 113. Joining us for more, Ross Burland, Head of Corporate Dealing at RationalFX. Ross, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Look, this 140 level, Rick Santelli was talking about it a lot yesterday in Chicago. Just how important is that break below 140?
It's very, very psychological. You know, the euro is trading very heavily on the basis of prospects of the interest rates in the eurozone now probably having to come down. You know, the inflation concerns have now been offset with prospects of growth into 2009 coming down. It's going to trade very heavily. We're looking perhaps towards the 135 psychological level now, testing in the region of 130, consolidation around 135. But if we're going to be rational about this, you know, what's happening in the US is unprecedented. You know, we're a long way off from getting anywhere near to a resolve of that, and there's always going to be a lot of volatility in these markets, so it's not a sure bet that we're heading in that direction.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because you know, people are also talking about rate cuts in the US as well, so
yeah.
You know, so we think it's going to go down, but it could be a very volatile move.
I think it will be, absolutely, very choppy. You know, the dollar has benefited hugely from the uncertainty, a lot of repatriation of funds into the Feds, etc. And the prospects were really that interest rates perhaps could be rising in the US until this current climate. So this is where we're at.
You, Ross, it's Brian here on the station. You talk about the repatriation of the U.S. dollar. What's your sense of what's going to fuel it moving forward? I mean, if the U.S. cuts rates, as there are some reports they might do that, and the ECB stands pat and cuts down the road, that's not necessarily a sign of more dollar strength, but we're seeing strength here.
Absolutely. I mean, at the moment, I think it's the nervousness around the markets. A lot of repatriation, as I said, into the US dollar is propping it up. Going forward, more likely, yes, I think that there is definitely a bearish tone on the dollar, but just in this near-term situation we're having at the moment, there's dollar strength.
Hey Ross, this is Christine here. I mean, you talked about rate cuts in the Eurozone, talked about rate cuts in the US. Is the trend now for the yen to strengthen against the dollar and the euro from here?
Absolutely. We've seen an unwinding of the carry trades. I think that will potentially continue through, again, with all the nervousness and uncertainty. You know, the dollar on the back of this is benefiting greatly. And the same with the Australian dollar. You know, we're seeing signs there in the economy now with interest rates having been so high. These types of carry trades, they're unwinding.
Where does sterling go amongst all of this?
Sterling, we're bearish. Again, I think we're bearish on the majority of the currencies. With sterling, potentially, yes. I think the Bank of England are going to keep rates on hold, but I think
they might cut. There's people talking about a possible cut next week now.
Yeah, I think perhaps maybe we'll just let this ride a little bit longer. Maybe a tactical one just before Christmas. Definitely, perhaps in January. But going forward, more so, yes, we're bearish on the pound as well.
Ross, Christine here. How would you make money in the currency markets right now? Which is your best bet?
To be fair, I think you know, you've got to be looking at the safe havens. You know, gold is a great one to be investing in. In terms of the actual currencies alone, I would say yes. The dollar, I think there's a bit more to go, especially in the euro dollar. Cable perhaps a little bit lower as well, but you know, close stops, choppy trading.
Okay, Ross, good to see you. Thanks for that. Ross Burland, Head of Corporate Dealing at RationalFX. We've got no problems mentioning your name.
Thank you.
At least I hope not.
It's not often we have two Rosses in the show. Ross and Ross.
Can't have too many.
You know, two Rosses.
You can't have too many of them.
I think one is enough. One is enough on this show. That's gotta
my
be
family feels the same way, funnily enough.
We can't handle anymore. Coming up in the next hour, Worldwide Exchange, we will continue to monitor the markets and give you the stories making headlines across the world, including, coming from the Paris Motor Show, an interview with the Executive Vice President of Nissan.